And the whole thing was going to be about how Vic Mangina didn't really want to be involved with the whole thing because it was beneath her or whatever, and it was very like, it felt like if anybody watched it that wasn't really one of the people that I was making fun of. And I've made a lot of those videos where people watch the videos and they're like, I don't really understand what you're talking about, like with the turkey leg stuff and the dangerous box. And I didn't want the whole movie to be one of those jokes. I wanted the movie to be a standalone project. And so I rewrote the whole thing like 3 times over the course of a couple of months. And then I came back to it at last a week ago and I just did the whole thing in one go. And this M. Night Shyamalan thing, originally, because I did rewrite it a couple of times, and I made it so that the whole thing with the villains and the film crew, it was that Naruto was dealing with Hollywood. And it was always going to be Michael Bay and George Lucas. But the villain in all the other drafts, aside from the one where it was me, it was going to be Tim Burton. And then I realized that, really, what do you do with Tim Burton? I mean, okay, Planet of the Apes, alright, whatever. He's made some good material. M. Night Shyamalan is much more of a villain in as far as Hollywood goes. You can actually, like, a lot of people were complaining that there was no what a twist joke, although that is in the final credits. I didn't want to make fun of him the way that everybody else has. I just wanted to have him be evil, in the sense that, you know, people genuinely think that M. Night Shyamalan is the destroyer of worlds or whatever, I don't know, but in the end I ended up doing something with him that I'd wanted to do for a long time, which was make him Kung Pao's Evil Betty, which was an idea I'd originally had for Marek for Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. He was going to be Evil Betty from Kung Pao, which is kind of why you can kind of hear that kind of voice aspect in his voice. But I thought with the Evil Betty in this, I kind of went a bit further. I like all the random stuff that he says, like, "That's right, gay boy." Just calling Naruto gay boy the first time he meets him, with no implication or indication of what his sexual orientation is. Well, okay. But yeah, the whole stuff with M. Night Shyamalan and everything, everything in the second half of this movie, literally, I came up with as I was editing, because it was almost like I'd not done this in a long time, where I would just look at the footage and write whatever I thought of. Usually I watch the movie and then I come back to it afterwards. I just don't look at it, and I write the script and then I edit the footage and I hope it works with whatever I've written. But with this, it was almost like I was doing an MST3K job in it. I was just taking the footage, looking at it and thinking, what can I say about this? And how can I use this footage in a certain way? And originally this whole sequence, I kind of regret not doing the sequence differently, because first of all, it's a song parody and that's overdone, especially in the movie. But I originally wanted that whole sequence, in all the other drafts, in every single draft except this one, that whole sequence was going to play out dramatically. It was going to have this beautiful score to it, and it was going to be like just so much death and carnage, and it was going to make you feel like, wow, whoa, this is heavy. This is actually something. This is really sad and depressing what's happening. And then it was going to cut to Michael Bay filming the whole thing, saying, "I'm going to win a fucking Oscar," and it was just going to completely degrade the whole thing. But it went on too long, for one, and second of all, it just doesn't feel right in something like this to go all serious, even for that amount of time. Although I do that with the Everything I Do sequence, but that was funny because Naruto was singing. This is one of my favorite exchanges. I think this whole bit is really funny, where he says, "Well, M. Night Shyamalan, I also have a joke." Well, I don't care. The Clucky the Chicken thing is something I really wanted to get over. Even though it's a joke that's established in the other Naruto Abridged series, I really wanted to really go overboard on the whole Clucky the Chicken, just using that as a catchphrase. And this sequence, this is why turning the princess into just a one-note character really helped, because originally in every other draft this whole sequence went on a lot longer. And if you've seen the Flash movie that Kerberfer animated, where we were making fun of how if Naruto made a movie, it would be really egotistical and just full of a bunch of like sex scenes and stuff. The bit with Ghost Sensei showing up, originally when in one of the early drafts, Ghost Sensei was actually in this movie, and he appeared to Naruto in the prison and helped him escape, and it was that's why that bit kind of happens out of nowhere in the Flash movie. But What was I saying? Oh yeah, taking the princess and turning her into a one-note character really helped, like, cut about, I'd say, at least 5 to 10 minutes out of the movie. I've heard from Masako that the actual Naruto abridged movie, which as of this recording has yet to come out, I've heard that it's going to be around 30 minutes long, like 30 actual, like half an hour, like how my original Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged movie was half an hour long, essentially. And I'm watching this and I can't think how, I mean, maybe it's just me being completely blind and egotistical, but I can't think how you can make this longer without it dragging. I'm watching this, and even like with these added musical sequences, it really feels like a 15 to 20 minute length is ideal for this movie. Somebody made a joke about, by the way, about how the splash that Naruto makes when he lands in the pool looks like a penis. And they wrote in the comments, hidden penis at like 14 minutes and 5 seconds, and I was like, where's the penis? And I kept looking at the horse, because I was like, can you see the horse's penis? What? And then I realized, oh, they're talking about the splash, the effect that it makes. I'm really proud of this lip syncing right here. I don't know, it's really sad that I'm really proud of Naruto singing a heartfelt song to a girl that he's known for 5 minutes. What was I going to say? Oh, I really regret this part, because there's a bit where, right here, where Betty sort of appears out of the smoke. I really wanted, in retrospect, for him to say, as he spreads his wings, "Yeah, I'm a birdie," or something like that. Something about feeling like a birdie, because there's a line in Kung Pao where they're doing the bird calls, and he just goes, "I'm just a birdie too." And I really wanted to have something like that when M. Night Shyamalan appears and does that. I'm proud of those lip flaps there on him hovering as well, because if you actually watch the movie, he flies off. He doesn't say anything. He hovers for like a beat and then flies off, but I had him hovering there the whole time and speaking. I thought that was pretty cool. Not to blow my own trumpet or anything. And this whole sequence where Naruto lands is one of everyone's favorite moments, where he's like, I really... This was another thing where I was like, how do I get Naruto from the forest where he's landed to meeting up with Betty and have it be funny? Because if you've watched the original movie, there's like a 15-minute sequence where he meets up with the director, who shows up out of nowhere, somehow knows where he is and has transportation, and then there's a whole fight sequence with the henchmen, which I was struggling to write anything for. Then I realized nobody gives a crap. Just cut them out of the movie. And that's how abridging works when it's at its best. You just, if something happens that nobody cares about, take it out unless you have a really good idea for a joke for it. And this is some artwork by the amazing Rinbo, who at the last minute for me drew an amazing picture of Iruka as the or should I call him the annoying sensei guy, as Kamina from Gurren Lagann, which I haven't seen, by the way. So people saying, oh, Little Karibo must be a Gurren Lagann fan. I'm like, no, I know of it through osmosis. But that was an amazing piece of art that she did. And that whole sequence where Fight the Power, or Libera Me from Hell, kicks in and he flies out of the water. And I'm really proud of that. That was the moment where I realized I'm at the end of the movie and I've got here, and I can indulge myself and have an awesome action moment, and it looks really cool and it sounds really cool. And this is also probably, this was the first, I don't mean funniest, this was the first joke in the movie that I wrote, was him spinning off into the glass and you hearing the Mario sound effect. That was the first and probably the funniest in retrospect, probably the funniest joke. And I was actually going to end this with another song parody, but then I realized, no, just do a callback to the Everything I Do moment. And there's Takahata 101 as the rower, which he was completely oblivious to. He didn't know he was going to be in the movie. And I apologize if I used that without permission, but yeah. So these are the credits, and these obviously reflect the Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged movie credits, which were very similar, but actually had credits going alongside them. But for this, I figured, you know what, this is the funny part. People don't really care how the movie was made. This is the jokes. It's funny to know what happened to these characters. And appropriately, that Japanese George Lucas shot is him as a ghost. If you've seen the movie, he shows up and smiles, and you realize, oh, he's dead and he's a ghost. And so it was kind of, I wanted Hayden Christensen to be next to him. I wanted to edit Hayden Christensen just like smiling from the end of Return of the Jedi. And I don't know what else to say. Annoying sensei guy, probably one of my favorite voices to do. And a lot of people say, is that your Meowth impression? And a lot of people say, regardless of whether it's my Meowth impression, it does sound a lot like Meowth. It wasn't intended as a Meowth impression. It was originally me playing around with a voice that was... I'd just seen the movie Bolt by Disney, the CGI movie, and the character Rhino the hamster had this kind of like, over the top fanboy voice kind of thing. I don't know. It was nothing like what I do for Irika, but I was kind of trying to emulate that in the original, like the read through. And then I just went really overboard with it. I was like, no, you haven't done your ninja chores! And then I realized, oh, it's Meowth. You're right. James Brookston, of course, one of the greatest abridgers of our time. I'm sure he's the next Team 4-star. No doubt about it. But yeah, the whole movie went through about 4 different drafts, and I wish you guys... I mean, I don't wish you guys could have seen the original versions, because they were nowhere near as good as this. But they went through some... And there were only like a couple of things that I kept, and they were really general ideas, was the Michael Bay and the George Lucas thing. The opening scene was always the same, with Naruto watching the Naruto abridged movie trailer, because even back then, 6 months ago, it seemed like the movie had been taking ages to make, and I thought it would have been funny if they were complaining about how long it was taking. And then when I came around to make it now, they still hadn't made it, so I was like, oh, that's a relief, I don't have to change anything in that sequence. Naruto finally quit smoking. I'm sure he'll relapse, though. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody who supported me throughout this entire project. Like, I mean, nobody really knew I was doing it, but people had an inkling that I was doing it. A lot of the people in Team 4-star and various other people were like, wow, dude, you totally have to do the movie. And I was like... And in fact, Anime Vegas was where the whole thing gestated. It was like, people were like, you gotta do the movie. And I was like, okay, I might as well. And there's the end.
I made this movie in a week.